The first personal assistant I ever hired was a complete disaster, and it was my fault, not hers. Amy, shout out to you. You were amazing. You still are amazing, but I wasn't prepared to have an assistant. Now, I know I needed one, and I had almost 50 real estate listings at the time. I had 50 single family homes on the market. I knew I needed an assistant because I could barely remember all of my sellers' name. I was burning myself out each and every day. I was working 12 to 14 hours a day, just accumulating listings. This is back in 2012 when the market was at the bottom. It was easy to accumulate listings, but it was really hard to keep track of all those conversations, those price reductions. Totally different market than we're in today. Totally different challenges, but we all have challenges in our market when we're trying to scale, when we're trying to go to the next level, when we're trying to build something special. And so I knew I needed some help. I needed to put some infrastructure around me to do the things to make those emails go out that need to go out on a regular basis, to record into my CRM. Back then I was using Excel as my CRM, the notes in which I needed around each one of the sellers. How many have I talked to everybody this week? All these different things that are going on in my head that are just like circling around in between driving to listing appointment to showing, etc. So I knew I needed help. But when I hired Amy, my first assistant, the day that she walked in to the office, I remember thinking, oh my God, I now have a part-time job. What do I mean by that? I didn't know what the heck I was going to give her to do. I had all these things and all these problems and all these issues that were swirling around me, but I had no idea what I was actually going to give Amy to do when she walked in that day, Monday at 8:30 a.m. She's like, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to go. And I'm like, because I've got people pinging my texts. I've got people calling me. I've got emails popping up. I say, sit down and, we'll get right to it. I had no plan to attack on how I was going to actually step away from my business, get her trained on the things that I needed, and create systems that are going to help me advance my business. It actually brought more stress onto the situation than had I taken the time to actually do it right. So number one, she was a physical, personal assistant. My business wasn't at the scale it is today, where we're going to do almost 1,000 transactions and we're going to sell $300 million worth of real estate today. Well, it wasn't anything like that. I didn't have a real estate business and a media company and all these things and all these different employees. I've got W-2s, I got virtual assistants. I've got all of these different things at my fingertips. I got people that can train people. Didn't have that then, right? So it was all on me. So I had to pay this assistant, this physical personal assistant, basically under the table. I didn't even know how to pay somebody on a W-2. I didn't know how to pay somebody on a 1099. I didn't have it all set up. You hit the thumbs up button if you've been in that situation before. You're trying to hire somebody and you're like, I got to pay you under the table. I got to, even if it's a check, I can't pay you as a real employee. So even when you get somebody good, and Amy was great and she still is great, even when you get somebody who is a hard worker, eventually, if you're paying them in that way, they're likely going to leave, because what happened with Amy, once we finally did get some systems and get some flow going on, she ended up leaving. She's like, I need to buy a car. She was right out of college. And she's like, I don't even really have a pay stub from you. So I had no idea what I was going to have her do. Now, we ended up over time figuring it out, but when you don't have a system and an infrastructure in a way you're going to actually add value to their working relationship, it's not going to last long. And it didn't last long. And in the first 2 or 3 months, it brought way more pressure onto me to figure out what I'm actually going to have her do. So the number one thing we need to do when we're hiring an assistant is create a list of what we're going to have them do, the tasks that we are willing to delegate immediately, and that we can have a system on training them to execute on those tasks. Oftentimes, when you fill out this list of all the things that are slowing you down. I used to do a seller guarantee. So I would guarantee my communication to all of my listings. Every single week, you're going to hear from me. I'm going to schedule time with you every single week. If I don't do that, you can fire me. It was in the contract. You can fire me from the deal. Back then, homes were sitting on the market, so a communication guarantee was relevant. That might be coming back into play right now, so hold that in your back pocket if you're a listing agent. And so all these different lists, like organizing my communication to sellers, keeping good notes of all of, I used to take notes when I was a listing appointment on paper. Maybe you're doing it on an iPad, getting that to your assistant so they can organize the follow-up appropriately so you know what to say when you reach back out. Just creating the list. What are all the things that are slowing me down? Maybe it's just getting things up on LinkedIn. Maybe you have the content, you're producing content, but you're actually not posting it in enough places. You're only posting it on Instagram, and you're missing out on the fact that Facebook Reels right now is giving you huge organic, and just maybe it's just the posting. Maybe it's just these administrative tasks. Just list them all out one by one. And what I think is going to happen is you're going to find that if it's your first assistant, if it's your first employee, you don't need to go out and hire somebody physically in your office. See, if I could look back on 2012, what I would have done if I had known better is hire a virtual assistant. I would have hired somebody where the responsibility of payroll isn't on me. One of the things I love about, I've got 6 VAs right now. We're actually interviewing a 7th throughout my companies, is that I can use my Amex. I can collect points. I don't have to get into a W-2 situation. I don't have to get into a situation where, I might have to pay, somebody extreme benefits and all of this type of stuff. I can go through a company who is paying the virtual assistant. I can actually use my credit card. So there's a lot of infrastructure already built in. All I have to do is know the 3 things that I'm going to share with you right now, which is number 1, creating the list of what I'm going to delegate. Now, from there, I've got my list and I can see what the trends are. Okay. Like, is it a lot of posting? Is it a lot of, emailing? What is the trend here on this list of things that I need off my plate so I can do money making activities right now? All right. End of 2022, end of 2003. If you're not focusing your time on money making activities, I promise you, you're going to follow the dip of less sales in the market. The agents that beat that number are going to be the ones that spend all their time creating relationships, talking to humans that are interested in buy, selling, investing in real estate, money-making activities, which means you got to get this other stuff off your plate. So number 2, you can narrow down the type of VA you need. Is this an executive assistant I need? Is this a social media type of assistant that I really need in my business? Is this a transaction coordinator? I mentioned the team in Connecticut, it's the number 1 team on the MLS in Connecticut that I own, and we're going to do almost 1,000 transactions. Our entire transaction team is virtual assistants. Okay. There's a bunch of teams asking me right now, like, Byron, I'm about to get rid of my W-2s and go, virtual on transaction. How is it working for you? It's working wonderful for me. I don't have to tie up all of that salary here in the States. I can spread that out and do more content than anybody, take over market share by being omnipresent with our messaging. So you're going to narrow down what type: transaction, listing coordinator, executive assistant, based off of that list of tasks that you're willing to delegate. Now, here's the 3rd thing that you're going to do, and this is before you start interviewing. In the comments, by the way, thumbs up or make a comment rather. Would you like me to do a video like this on our interview process when we interview virtual assistants specifically? So I definitely would like to do that. If there's interest in that, hit me up in the comments here. All right. So the 3rd thing we're going to need to do, we've got our list of tasks that we're willing to delegate. We've narrowed down the type of assistant or virtual assistant that we're going to hire based off of their training. They're going to be an executive assistant. They're going to be, an administrative, a transaction coordinator. We've narrowed down the type based on 70% of the tasks that we need delegated. And the 3rd thing we're going to do is we're going to build out this job description. In the show notes here, you can get a link to this ebook. We actually did this ebook, BAM, with Virtue Desk, who we use for all of our virtual assistants. They are fantastic. And we're walking you through, this is volume 1, so there's 2 more ebooks coming, how to hire a VA. And right here is all of the elements of a job description. So list out the 7 elements there. You can get that link below and read through it. What's really important about building out a sophisticated job description is that that becomes your SOP. That becomes your standard operating procedure for maybe you go and hire a second VA and you've got a blueprint based off of building a good job description first. Now I take that, I expand on it, I have an SOP. Now when I hire assistant number 2, I can hand them a PDF SOP of what is expected of them. Now, when you go through a company like Virtue Desk, like I do, to hire virtual assistants, and there's a link below so that you can have a conversation and start interviewing people for free right now, no obligations. You can start interviewing people. That's what I love about Virtue Desk. I can just set up interviews and I can start talking to VAs and be like, yep, this is a winner for my organization. It's the right fit. I'm going to go ahead and hire this person today and start training them today. And I can make as many interviews as I want. But the beautiful thing about, listen, they'll do a job description for you. Virtue Desk, they'll help you out, all of that for sure. And other VA companies, I'm sure, might do something similar to that. But you doing the job description, you building it out very specific to your needs, allows you to have really good books in the back end of your business, allows you to have a standard operating procedure for every department that you're building out and scaling. You might be saying, Byron, I'm a solo agent. Great. Start building the infrastructure around you, because if you're going to be that top producing solo agent in your marketplace, I would argue that you're going to need 3 or 4 assistants to achieve the level of top end success that you're capable of and take back the time that you want for your life. And 2 or 3 of those might be a virtual assistant. And if you've got really good SOPs over time, year 2, year 3, year 4 of hiring, replacing, switching seats, right person, right seat over here, you can then point to your SOP to get them a head start. So you don't feel like I felt when I hired Amy, my first assistant back in 2012, that stress and that overwhelm of what the heck am I now going to have this person to do? See, often people fail when they hire an assistant because they actually didn't build out a plan on how to make them successful. So number 1, create the list of tasks that this assistant is going to be doing. What are you going to delegate off your plate that's not a money-making activity? Number 2, narrow down the type of title that you need: transaction coordinator or executive assistant or social media assistant. And then number 3, build out a very specific job description that can become your SOP in the future. I've got 2 links below that are going to help you accomplish this. It's the ebook. It's a free ebook. I mean, there's 20 plus pages here in volume 1 of exactly how to hire a VA. The next ebook is going to cover these interview questions. If you'd like a video on that on this Broke Agent Media channel, I'd be happy to do that. Let me know in the comments. The second link is a link that'll connect you right to Virtue Desk so that you can start interviewing today with absolutely no obligation. I love the process because they're going to line me up with 3, 4, 5 virtual assistants back to back to back, where I can interview all of them, ask very specific questions. And if I don't hire one, I don't pay a dime, right? It's one of the beautiful things about a virtual assistant process, as opposed to hiring somebody, physically. It's just a lot more time. They set everything up for you. So those 2 links are down below. Really appreciate you watching till the end. If you've made it this far, please consider subscribing to BAM if you haven't done so already. See you on the next video.